They look like ordinary places on a map. Small towns where kids used to ride bikes down quiet streets, where neighbors once left their doors unlocked. But behind these faded facades lies a disturbing reality. One of rising violence, crumbling infrastructure, and communities caught in the crossfire of poverty and crime. Every year, new data reveals the harsh truth. Some towns in America have become too dangerous to ignore. These aren't just statistics. These are real places, with real people, facing real danger. Drive down the wrong block after dark, and you might not make it home. These are the towns where law enforcement is overwhelmed, trust is broken, and fear walks hand in hand with every resident. Today, we're revealing the 10 most dangerous towns to live in the United States, not based on rumor, but on cold, hard facts, FBI crime data, local news reports, and stories from those who live there. But before we dive in, ask yourself, could your hometown be on this list, or maybe one you've thought of moving to? Stick around, because number 1 will absolutely shock you. 10. Saginaw, Michigan. Saginaw has struggled with economic decline since the fall of the auto industry. As factories shut down, jobs vanished, and so did the peace. With a violent crime rate more than 4 times the national average, Saginaw sees frequent shootings, assaults, and robberies. Local efforts are in place to turn the town around, but many residents still feel unsafe walking the streets after dark. Once a manufacturing powerhouse and a proud part of Michigan's industrial backbone, Saginaw has become a cautionary tale of what happens when economic investment dries up. With the disappearance of stable employment came rising poverty, and with poverty came desperation. Some neighborhoods are now marked by abandoned homes, graffiti-tagged buildings, and corner stores with bulletproof glass. Community leaders and nonprofits have been working hard to restore hope, starting youth mentorship programs, anti-violence initiatives, and food drives. But when resources are thin and trauma is generational, progress is slow. Residents speak of hearing gunshots at night as if it's background noise. It's not uncommon for families to move within the city 3 or 4 times just to find a slightly safer block. The Saginaw Police Department faces a heavy burden, operating with limited manpower and outdated equipment. While some parts of the city are relatively calm, high crime zones remain volatile and unpredictable. Property crime is rampant, and carjackings have surged in the past 18 months. Even routine errands often come with calculated risk, especially for young men of color. Still, not all is lost. Grassroots movements led by local pastors, teachers, and single mothers are fighting for change. They host peace walks, clean abandoned lots, and push for policy reform. But the reality remains. For many in Saginaw, daily life is a balancing act between survival and hope. And while it may not make national headlines often, those who live there know Saginaw is still very much in the fight for its future. 9. Flint, Michigan. Once a symbol of American manufacturing strength, Flint has become one of the most notorious cities in the country, for reasons that go far beyond its water crisis. In 2025, Flint continues to struggle not just with public health concerns, but also with sky-high violent crime rates and widespread economic hardship. Years of industrial decline left Flint hollowed out. Abandoned buildings line the streets, and entire neighborhoods sit in silence, marked by poverty, neglect, and decay. But what makes it especially dangerous is the persistent presence of gun violence, aggravated assaults, and break-ins, even during daylight hours. The city has one of the highest murder rates per capita in the state of Michigan. Many families live with a constant sense of caution, taking alternate routes to avoid trouble spots and warning their kids about walking alone, even to school. Local authorities are underfunded and overworked, leaving community safety to be handled block by the residents themselves. And yet, the people of Flint are resilient. There are grassroots efforts to rebuild trust, restore homes, and reignite community pride. But until deep-rooted issues like generational poverty, gang activity, and systemic inequality are fully addressed, Flint remains one of the most dangerous towns in America to live in, where survival often depends more on awareness than luck. But what's even more concerning is the growing number of young people being drawn into the violence. With limited job prospects and underfunded schools, many teens in Flint are left vulnerable to street-level crime, drug culture, and gang recruitment. For them, danger isn't just outside, it's part of daily survival. Flint's residents, however, are not giving up. There's a growing movement of activists, educators, and faith leaders fighting to take back their city. From youth mentorship programs to neighborhood patrol groups, pockets of progress are forming. But the journey is uphill, and until deeper investments are made, Flint remains a city where hope and hardship exist side by side, and safety is still far from guaranteed. 8. Bessemer, Alabama. Nestled just southwest of Birmingham, Bessemer, Alabama might appear to be a quiet industrial town at first glance, but beneath the surface lies a troubling crime rate that consistently lands it among the most dangerous places in the country. With a population hovering around 25,000, the violent crime rate here is significantly higher than the national average, and residents face an unsettling risk of being affected by crimes like assault, robbery, and even homicide. Bessemer has struggled with economic decline for decades, especially after the collapse of its once thriving steel industry. As manufacturing jobs disappeared, unemployment and poverty rates surged, creating the perfect environment for crime to fester. Many neighborhoods are marked by abandoned homes and underfunded infrastructure, signaling years of systemic neglect that have yet to be properly addressed. One of the town's biggest issues is gang-related violence, which continues to impact younger populations. Local law enforcement frequently deals with shootings, drug trafficking, and domestic violence, making it a high-stress environment for families trying to raise children. Community initiatives have tried to step in, but consistent funding and resources are still lacking. Another concern is the lack of public services and community spaces that could otherwise help reduce crime. With limited recreational facilities, job training centers, and mental health support, many residents are left with few options for positive engagement, especially the youth. Without meaningful intervention, the cycle of violence and poverty is likely to continue. Despite these challenges, there are sparks of hope. Some grassroots organizations and faith-based groups have taken steps toward revitalization, aiming to provide mentorship, education, and neighborhood cleanup projects. But for now, Bessemer remains a cautionary tale, a city weighed down by its past, still fighting for a safer future. 7. Pine Bluff was once a city full of promise, a place where industries thrived and communities were close-knit. But in recent years, the city has become a shadow of its former self. Vacant lots stretch for blocks, and many homes bear the scars of abandonment and decay. It's a place where opportunity has slowly dried up, and in that void, violence has taken root. Crime in Pine Bluff isn't just a statistic, it's a daily reality. The city consistently ranks among the highest in the nation for violent crime per capita. Gun violence, robberies, and aggravated assaults are not isolated incidents, they're recurring headlines. Locals speak of hearing sirens more often than silence. For many residents, walking outside after dark isn't just unwise, it's unthinkable. Economic hardship plays a major role. With unemployment rates above the national average and few prospects for advancement, the city's youth are often left with limited options. Some turn to gangs or street crime out of desperation, creating a cycle that's incredibly hard to break. Schools are underfunded, public services are stretched thin, and the infrastructure feels like it's barely holding on. But what makes Pine Bluff's situation even more troubling is the sense of forgottenness. Unlike major cities that receive national attention and funding, Pine Bluff often feels like it's been left out of the conversation altogether. The residents who remain are proud of their roots, but many also feel trapped, yearning for safety, for stability, for change. If you're considering relocation or travel, it's crucial to look beyond the surface of small-town charm. Pine Bluff serves as a sobering reminder that behind America's quiet towns can sometimes lie a storm of systemic issues. It's a city at a crossroads, haunted by its past, struggling in its present, and uncertain of its future. 6. Once upon a time, Danville, Illinois stood proud, a manufacturing stronghold humming with ambition. Nestled near the Indiana border, it was a place where families built futures and factories forged legacies. But those echoes have quieted. Today, the clang of industry has been replaced with silence, and the steady beat of progress has faded into memory. The streets still hold stories, but now they're whispered from broken windows and crumbling sidewalks. Beneath Danville's quiet facade lies a growing unease. Crime has crept in like a slow-moving fog, sometimes violent, often senseless, and always tragic. From break-ins to shootings, it's no longer just an occasional headline. It's become the backdrop of daily life. For many residents, safety feels more like a hope than a guarantee, especially when night falls and the city feels like it's holding its breath. In a town where over 30% of the population lives below the poverty line, survival often comes before dreams. Abandoned homes pepper the neighborhoods like scars. Schools strain under limited funding. And opportunities? They're few and far between. For the youth of Danville, the path forward often feels like a dead-end street. A lack of economic investment has left the city gasping for a future that seems to always be out of reach. What's hardest to capture in statistics is the emotional weight, the fatigue in the eyes of single parents, the frustration of small business owners barely holding on, the resignation in elderly residents who remember what Danville used to be. There's a collective tension in the air, not just fear of crime, but of being forgotten, of becoming another dot on the map that no one visits unless they have to. Yet even in the harshest places, light flickers. Community leaders, churches, and local activists are working to revive what's been lost. There's a pulse beneath the pain, a determination not to give up. But without deep structural change and real support, Danville teeters on the edge. For now, it stands as a haunting reminder. When opportunity vanishes, a city doesn't just decline, it disappears from within. 5. Detroit, Michigan. Once hailed as the proud symbol of American industrial power, Detroit, Michigan is now often referenced for an entirely different reason: its staggering urban decline. Known as the birthplace of the auto industry and the soul of Motown music, Detroit was once among the most prosperous cities in the United States. But over the last few decades, it has endured economic collapse, population loss, and a long-standing crime crisis that continues to haunt its communities. In the wake of deindustrialization, Detroit saw the departure of major automakers and a sharp drop in job opportunities. The result was a steep decline in tax revenue, leaving basic services like public safety, schools, and infrastructure critically underfunded. As factories shuttered and families moved out, entire neighborhoods were left behind. Today, thousands of abandoned homes still dot the city's landscape, creating pockets of blight and breeding grounds for crime. According to FBI data, Detroit has consistently ranked among the most dangerous cities in America. Residents face high rates of violent crime, including assaults, robberies, and homicides. Many locals speak of an unspoken code: avoid certain streets after dark, stay alert at gas stations, and know your surroundings at all times. While the Detroit Police Department continues efforts to reduce crime, stretched resources and deep-rooted socioeconomic issues remain significant barriers. Yet, Detroit is not a city without hope. In recent years, small businesses have emerged, artists and entrepreneurs are reclaiming spaces, and a growing movement of local leaders is working to revitalize what was lost. Downtown areas are seeing signs of economic recovery, though the benefits are still unevenly distributed across communities. Detroit's story is complex. It's a city of grit and survival, where hardship has shaped both its people and its reputation. For outsiders, it may serve as a cautionary tale. For insiders, it's still home, a place full of memory, struggle, and undeniable potential. 4. Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio, once a beacon of industry and innovation along the shores of Lake Erie, now stands as a symbol of America's struggling Rust Belt cities. In its heyday, Cleveland was a booming hub of steel manufacturing, oil magnates, and working-class prosperity. But when the factories closed and jobs disappeared in the late 20th century, the city's foundation began to erode, triggering a decades-long economic and social decline. Today, many parts of Cleveland are grappling with the aftermath. Once thriving neighborhoods have been hollowed out by population loss, leaving behind abandoned homes, boarded-up storefronts, and deteriorating infrastructure. The city's poverty rate remains one of the highest in the country, with entire communities facing generational hardship. The effects are not just economic. They're visible in the strained public services, underfunded schools, and limited access to quality health care. Crime has become an inescapable part of life in many parts of the city. Violent incidents, from armed robberies to fatal shootings, occur at rates far above the national average. For residents in hard-hit areas, safety is a daily concern. While law enforcement continues efforts to combat gang activity and organized crime, deep-rooted social challenges make lasting progress a slow and uphill battle. Despite the grim statistics, Cleveland is not without its champions. Local nonprofits, small business owners, and community organizers are working tirelessly to breathe new life into neglected areas. Downtown and select districts like Ohio City and Tremont have seen signs of revitalization, fueled by food scenes, the arts, and urban redevelopment. But the divide between the rebounding neighborhoods and those still stuck in survival mode remains stark. Cleveland's story is one of contrast, beauty and decay, resilience and resignation. It's a city still fighting to find its identity in a post-industrial America, a place where history lingers in the brick buildings and silent factories, and where hope flickers in the hands of those refusing to give up. 3. St. Louis, Missouri. In the heart of the Midwest lies a city rich in history, but haunted by hardship. St. Louis, Missouri, once a thriving symbol of American industry and jazz, now grapples with a reputation it can't seem to shake. In 2025, it ranks among the most dangerous cities in the nation, not because it lacks promise, but because the promise is constantly overshadowed by peril. Each day in St. Louis, the rhythm of life is interrupted by the sharp crack of gunfire. Entire neighborhoods feel like battlegrounds, where youth are recruited into cycles of violence faster than they are into schools or jobs. The city's homicide rate continues to climb, often placing it at the top of national charts for gun-related deaths per capita. Efforts at revitalization are visible downtown, with gleaming new developments, community gardens, and startup hubs. But those projects rarely reach the communities most impacted. In areas like North St. Louis, boarded-up homes and abandoned schools stand as monuments to neglect. It's a tale of two cities, one pushing forward, the other being left behind. Behind every statistic is a grieving mother, a shuttered small business, a classroom with too many empty seats. St. Louis is not just dealing with crime. It's facing the erosion of trust, of safety, of stability. And while activists and churches continue to lead rallies for peace, hope remains a flickering light struggling against the darkness. Until bold reform meets deep-rooted empathy, St. Louis will remain at war with itself, fighting not just violence, but the fear of becoming a forgotten American city. 2. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, once a proud industrial giant on the Chesapeake Bay, continues to wrestle with the shadows of its past. In 2025, the streets still echo with the weight of long-standing challenges: systemic inequality, fractured institutions, and neighborhoods caught in the cycle of generational poverty. While parts of the city show signs of growth, others feel like forgotten zones, where survival is the primary goal. The city's homicide rate remains among the highest in the nation, with over 320 killings and rising, many committed in broad daylight. Entire communities are now marked by invisible borders, where even delivery drivers refuse to go after dusk. Parents live in fear of sending their children outside, and street corners become battlegrounds between drug crews and lost youth seeking purpose. Efforts to rebuild trust between the police and the people often stall. Years of corruption, excessive force, and broken promises have made progress feel like an illusion. Many residents say they feel policed but not protected, observed but never truly served. Law enforcement, under pressure, finds itself caught between politics and the hard truths of urban decay. Despite the chaos, there's resilience in the people. Grassroots leaders, local pastors, and brave mothers rally for peace. There are stories of hope: students graduating, businesses opening, murals going up on bullet-riddled walls. But hope competes daily with danger. It's a tug of war with no clear victor. Baltimore is a city of contrasts: charm and chaos, beauty and brutality, pain and persistence. For all its promise, 2025 reminds us that a city can't fully rise until all its people are lifted. Not just those in high-rises, but those in row-houses where sirens ring louder than lullabies. 1. East St. Louis, Illinois. East St. Louis, Illinois may sit just across the river from St. Louis, Missouri, But the gulf between the two in safety, opportunity, and investment is massive. In 2025, this small city holds a grim distinction: the highest violent crime rate per capita in the United States. Statistically, residents are more likely to be victims of murder, robbery, or assault than almost anywhere else in the country. What makes East St. Louis so dangerous isn't just the numbers, it's the daily reality. Entire blocks are visibly decaying, with boarded-up homes and crumbling infrastructure giving the city a post-industrial ghost town feel. For some residents, the choice isn't whether to avoid crime, it's how to survive it. Walking to the store or waiting at a bus stop can feel like taking a risk. Gunshots echo through the night often enough to be familiar. The roots of this crisis go deep. Systemic disinvestment, racial segregation, and decades of political corruption have left the city struggling to meet even the most basic needs. Schools remain underfunded, social programs are stretched thin, and access to quality health care is minimal. For many, unemployment or low-wage labor are the only options, making gangs and street-level crime a tempting, if dangerous, path. Efforts to revitalize East St. Louis have come and gone. Federal programs, police partnerships, and nonprofit interventions have been tried, yet the results remain limited and temporary. What's clear is that any lasting solution must address more than crime. It must take on the generational poverty, lack of education, and broken public trust that fuel the city's ongoing decline. East St. Louis isn't just dangerous, it's a symbol of forgotten America. It's a stark reminder that violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. It grows from neglect, festers in inequality, and thrives when people are left behind. In 2025, the people of East St. Louis are still waiting for more than statistics. They're waiting to Illinois. As we wrap up this deep dive into the most dangerous cities in America, remember, behind every statistic is a community, a family, a future at stake. These places aren't just headlines, they're homes to people striving for better, often with limited resources and even fewer choices. Understanding the reality is the first step to transforming it. Whether you're thinking about relocating, researching, or just staying informed, we hope this video shed light on the challenges some cities still face. If you found this content valuable, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video to raise awareness. And in the comments, tell us, what city surprised you the most? Or are there others we should feature next? Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.